one thing about our country is that we can take anything and just make it our own.
I just saw someone make a stone baked pizza on the road.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's reached the street. People obviously are trying to find the next thing that will interest us.
Pasta, that's macaroni to be
Yeah.
precise, being sold on the streets of UP.
Yeah.
And the guy is actually saying, "Bhaiya, 2 plate macaroni laga dena."
Even blueberries, they were not. Now the thela wala has it.
If that vegetable or fruit has reached the station, which means we feel that it has arrived in India. As you said about avocado, the only thing I think which is missing is some truffle oil being drizzled on the streets. So, hello and welcome once again to this amazing podcast with me, Chef Ajay Chopra. And this podcast is the European Union Tadka. Today, we have a very special guest amongst us. Well, he is definitely a chef, but a chef full of wit, full of enthusiasm, and full of creativity. You must have seen him all across the internet because his videos become viral like this. So, let's welcome Chef Nehal Karkera is in the house. I am so happy to have you, Chef.
आपके लिए ताली और खुद के लिए भी ताली.
Wow, wow, wow.
But thank you for having me. It's like my first podcast and hopefully we'll have some fun over here now.
Well, this time I'm not welcoming you with that slap.
Yeah. That's how it all started.
But that's how it all started, how it started.
I mean, I didn't have a job in COVID. I lost my job. I was sitting at home and, I started making content, but it wasn't flying off.
Right.
It wasn't picking up. So I was at a Meta, like a session, and the guy said, your beginning of your intro needs to be explosive. The first 3 seconds. Only thing I thought is someone needs to hit me. My wife was across the table. I said, listen, catch this bag and just throw it on my face. And then I timed it to a sound effect. And then I would fly off from one end to the other. And for some reason, it picked up. People liked that violent part of beginning of a food video for some reason. And that's how it went.
You know, it wasn't violent, first of all. That's how I got to know you. Second thing. The third thing is, sometimes realities of life are best expressed like this. Did you get me? My wife loved it. I'm sure the reason why it was not anything else but a thela was like go shopping.
Yeah, that was what it was. But the thing is, I was more amazed by her because she could throw it with dead accuracy from anywhere in the room. Like, aag band karke bhi, she would fling it, it would hit me up on my cheek every time.
So we all know wife se panga nahi lene.
Yeah, wife is always right. I wanted to do something in ASMR, so I had her find me around the house, and I would hide behind the curtain or something, and it became a fun thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of my personality. So I didn't want to do content which is straightforward.
Right.
I wanted to develop it into something else, had some humor into it.
Right. Obviously, your wit, your humor, gets expressed with your recipes. But your Indian recipes, are so good. I have actually seen some of your Mangalorean recipes. You are from Mangalore.
I'm from Mangalore.
Okay. So obviously your home recipes are what is coming out so beautifully. But apart from that, you do recipes from across the country. And that is what I love about you.
Yeah.
So, what inspires you?
And to be honest, I've never trained in Indian food.
What are you saying?
I never trained in Indian food.
Really?
So my I think I passed out culinary school 2007, and post that I specialized in European and Mediterranean flavors. So I started working in that. A lot of my core work is around Italian food, Spanish food, and the thing that attracts Indian food to me is because I love to eat Indian food after cooking all the other types of food.
Yeah.
When you come home, you want ghar ka khana, you want simple food, right? And since you gather all that experience, not only working with different cuisines, but also working with different nationalities from my work days, I felt like the channel where we would create recipes that, I decided 2 things I will never make on my channel. I'll never make butter chicken and I'll never cook Maggi. Okay, that was my core principle of the thing, because that's the first thing you do when you have a cooking channel. You make butter chicken and then you cook 5 types of Maggi. So that's never been done. My social media managers here who told me Maggi recipe trend ho rahi hai. मैं बोला या तो तू जाएगी या तो मैं जाऊंगा. But that was the core of the thing. And slowly it just started developing, and I realized that there are recipes from around the world which we will like as in our palates. We'll understand it.
Right.
And there are many recipes like this from the European continent and from all these regions that you will actually begin to like much better once you explore it.
Right. No, I mean, this is amazing because a lot of us did not know that your training was in European food and,
Yeah.
your background. So you said that 2007 you passed out college. Then how did the career grow? Where all did you go? What all did you do?
I somehow landed a job at the Taj President, which it was called President in Cuff Parade.
Right.
I think it was Chef Anando Solomon who, I think unko taras aa gaya mere pe, and he's like, okay, take the job. So I started working there, but that was also a time when we were hit by this big financial recession,
Right.
and a lot of staff was getting moved into different places. I was getting moved to Chennai, to the Taj property in Chennai, and I made a decision not to go because it wasn't financially like living expenses were going to be much higher. So I decided to stick back here. That's when I met someone who was just opening a Italian restaurant in Mumbai.
Right.
So I started, I was new, I was fresh. So I started working with the person, but this was completely different in terms of how Italian food was approached, right? I had never seen Parma ham or goat cheese or, pasta which are actually imported,
Right.
being used like how it was. Pasta for us is like white sauce, red sauce, pink sauce.
Right.
But this was a space that was not doing pink sauce at
And
all.
we're talking about Mumbai, India.
Mumbai, India, right? So working there, about 8 years went by. Then I just wanted to take a break. I said, I need to explore, get out of this country. Maybe I'll see something more and, understand something more. And that's when I left. I went to the US as an intern in a French winery. It was, I went from like the top position in the kitchen to like the bottom position, going and training under an international chef. That was a good decision for me because again you get to learn and understand a different country, a different culture, and different use of ingredients, quality of ingredients.
Right.
Then we went to the cruise liners for a bit, came back. I was at a bar, I was drinking. Okay, people drink, chefs drink. Okay, and I was at a bar, I was drinking, and there was this guy who met me, and he's like, "What do you do?" I said, I'm a chef." He's like, "Arey, there's this company looking for to hire some chefs." I said, "For what?" It's like, "They want to make cooking videos." I'm like, "Cooking videos for whom?" It's like, "No, there's this thing on, you can put them online and there's trending." I said, "I have 2 months off. I'll just go for this shoot." I got offered the job. I started making content for them. Lockdown happened. I started making content for myself, and
Rest is history.
rest is history, I guess.
Wow, that's amazing. No, Nehal, as a personality, I've known you for a while now, and I know that you're very witty, very humorous. So, Nehal, this is very interesting. Matlab, you spent most of your life learning and cooking international flavors, European flavors, Mediterranean flavors, and now you're totally cooking Indian food.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure that these are two parallels in your life where you draw a lot of similarities. How do you see that?
I think the foundation of cooking for me, and I'm sure it's for you, was set from a very European Western approach. Like the learnings about basics of cooking. Right. Indian food, like even though I love Indian food, certain aspects are not shared as much from cooks. From
Or rather documented.
not documented well, right?
Yeah.
But when it comes to Western cuisine, it's much more, you can go much deeper, understand much more deeper. But I realized that the cooking principles are the same.
Absolutely.
Right? It's frying, braising, stewing. Those principles have always been the same, right?
Yeah. And actually, it is the same in every cuisine.
Yes, every cuisine.
Even in Chinese or Japanese, you do a pan roast, you do a pot roast, you do a deep frying, you do a steaming. So it's the same, right? Right. That's
I think
a good point.
And I think as chefs,
Yeah.
where we are better at is just looking at color, consistency, and taste.
Right.
Like, is this the actual consistency of a gravy that it needs to be? So we know when to stop and start.
Yeah.
And I think we, as chefs, we understand how heat works better when it comes to cooking food. In that way, I kind of, since I love to eat it, I know what it tastes like. And as I started cooking it, it just kept getting better. I will not say I'm the best Indian cook out there, but for me, it's all about comfort food and comfort recipes. And if you cook it with in the same techniques, but you get, you keep getting better each time, that helped me, and that's what you see on the page, I guess.
Right. Now, one part of the similarity that I think you just drew was the cooking principles or the
Yeah.
cooking techniques. What now is your thought process on the ingredients? I mean, what's the similarities that one could draw from the ingredients that you use in
Yeah.
European cuisine or maybe Indian cuisine?
So for me, that was great to see this produce that was so, like, so rich when you look at it.
Amazing it was, right?
And you're like, oh my God, blueberries come in all the same sizes, and strawberries are placed so nicely. And I think that also brings a lot of joy in cooking with it later on.
Yeah.
So, uh, like, imagine cooking, like, having a pizza dough made with the proper 00 flour, right? What difference does it make to your pizza? So having accessibility to those ingredients really actually, it changes a lot of things, and how your customer reacts to your food.
And I'm sure you must have done all this, kind of in chef language, they say kiragiri.
A lot, because that fusion thing that happened naturally, because kahi to you want Indian taste in what anything that you're making.
Right. And also cruise line stories.
Yeah.
I'm sure when you're cooking European food for a lot of these customers, but behind the scenes, you're also cooking Indian food with
A
those
lot.
same ingredients.
A lot. Like, I remember there was aranchini made with biryani, leftover biryani. So, that was because they wanted to play something with biryani, leftover biryani. So we decided to fry them up.
What about some of the European ingredients that you use to make Indian food?
Using good quality sourdough pizza to add Indian toppings into it. You like the entire process of it was not meant for maybe a chicken tikka, but the flavors work. And like, if it works, I'll say it works. And it's great to experiment and just taste these different fusions that sometimes can create masterpieces.
It can, because for me also, I think I feel as a chef, good food has only one language.
Yeah.
It's called tasty. So, Nehal, you told me that you're from Mangalore.
Yes.
Wow.
I'm from Mangalore.
So, your Mangi current happened with food as well? I mean, you're a typical Mangalore cook, or
I hope my mother thinks I'm a typical Mangalorean cook, क्योंकि उनको तो लगता है मैं destroy कर रहा हूँ Mangalorean cuisine. But I know that one thing she'll call me, she's like, you never added methi to this. I'm going to come to your house and whack you. I'm like, okay.
but this is so beautiful about regional food, right? I mean,
Your region, you're Punjabi.
yeah, so yes, I am a Punjabi and I love my Punjabi roots. But I think as chefs, what we are talking about is that, the regional influence that you get from your childhood, I think it does something to you, right? So, Nehal, a very interesting fact that, occurs to my mind is that you spoke about your mom calling you and saying that, methi was not proper. When you compare that with you being in an Italian kitchen, how do you see that similarity?
Uh, So just like how moms are like perfectionists when it comes to cooking any recipes, the chefs that you train under these these Western cuisines or European cuisines, they too they are striving to reach perfection, right? So I learned a lot of things about what goes well with what, things that need to look a certain way, like, whether it is picking the right quality of basil that is to be used in a pesto, what is the cut that is required while preparing the risotto, different cuts like brunoise, or what is it, mirepoix. I was like, what is mirepoix? And then, as a trainee, you're like, what is mirepoix? I used to call it meripox for the longest, right? And then the chef's like, no, you don't call it meripox. How we have onion, ginger, garlic. On the other side, we had onion, carrot, celery. And that creates the base foundation of most of your stews and curries that you want to make. So
Very interesting.
very interesting.
Very interesting how, each cuisine has like a benchmark that you can look up to. And generally it is the moms, and that's where all the food and the recipe started. And when we're talking the similarities between Indian food and European food, I think that's very amazing that, an onion tomato masala versus a sofrito, or maybe a Parmesan cheese in the finishing whilst our safed makhan in our dal. So, so I think that's where I think we can draw a lot of similarities. And that, I think, is the beauty about food itself. Now, my next thought that I want to ask you about is that when we talk about European food, because since you've worked for a long duration in European kitchens, what are the variety of ingredients that you've come across which you've been very wowed by?
So I think there are many ingredients, but if I had to name something, we'll start off with the cheeses, the Grana Padano, which is, for me, that shocked me the most that each time you had it, it's so consistent each and every time. There's no subtle changes that can happen in that block of veal. And, it's it from a person who was eating grated cheese on a toast at the station, suddenly there's this humongous block of cheese that is not soft at all. But when you eat it, like it blows your mind.
It's full
It
of umami.
blows your mind because you're like, what have I just eaten?
Right.
And each time you add it to something, it changes the taste of that particular thing. Prosciutto was a big thing for me as well because if someone told me ki, this this pork has been salted, hung for about 6 to 8 months in different chambers, and now I'm going to cut it and feed it to you. I'll be like, "Are you crazy?" But when I actually had prosciutto for the first time, firstly I made a mistake. I like cardinal sin tha. I took a wrong knife to actually slice it, and it was it was really thick, and I got a lot of flack for it. But you need to cut it really thin, and that a piece of toast and that and like hot toast, the fat just melts into the toast.
Yeah.
And then heaven.
Heaven, right? You spoke about prosciutto di Parma and you spoke about Grana Padano, and both of these products are PDO and PGI labeled.
Okay.
And I think that's where, as chefs, I have always felt that comfort in European ingredients that if it is got that labeling, I can just close my eyes and know that every single time I'm going to grate this piece of Parmesan cheese on top of the pasta or on top of my risotto, it's going to give you that same consistent flavor. And for you, what I'm kind of getting a sense is that, it was also pure joy. So unless food gives you pure joy with, the understanding that, okay, this is going to be perfect all the time, I think that for us.
Yes, why not? Like, and that's the reason why I think we cook as well, right? Because so that I don't think, I'll be honest, like as if I cook something, I can't eat it. I always look at the joy in the other person who's eating it. If there's a smile or something.
I have the opposite. I look at my smile.
But I get that, it's something. Pure ingredients, they bring a smile on my face, and
So how much do you think consistency plays a role in our cooking and in our ingredients?
it's very crucial because only through that will you actually have, like, if you talk about it from a restaurant point of view, there are many factors that happen at the back end which people are not aware of. Like if you look at food cost or just maintaining quality, a consistent product will always have, always have the consistent recipe in that, and the taste will always be fine, customers will be happy, yields will be happy. So there are many factors that happen with consistency, and with certain products, it has really helped us at least be derive a much better product, like a good quality risotto rice. I never knew there were 3 types of risotto rices.
Arborio.
Arborio, Carnaroli, I think it was Valo di Nano, some Valo di Nano. And I'm like, ये हर time ऐसे ही आता है, यही पैकेट में आता है, properly packaged, airtight. You always wonder who are these people on the other side and how are they not making mistakes.
And I think this is the beauty about how tough the European Union laws are. They are very stringent. You can trace back the produce to its growth, to its year of growth, as well as to the farm that it comes from. And I think that whole traceability factor makes the ingredient extremely consistent all the times. And I think for me also, that is the most amazing factor, that every single time I'm using that ingredient, it's always top notch. It's gone under so many layers of scrutiny that it will always be a good product.
I can't even find my toothbrush in the morning sometimes. How are they keeping track of all these things? But yeah, you wonder because we do know like how stringent they are in terms of not just policies towards what is being grown, but also taking care of the soil and taking care of the water sources that they have.
Absolutely.
And they I think there are also certain green laws passed wherein they want to become carbon neutral by 2050, I think.
Yeah. So I think this is so amazing that how these four pillars stand as, the stamp for great quality. Quality is the most important thing, whether it's cooking or it's cooking with great ingredients. So when we talk about these four pillars of safety, authenticity, quality, and sustainability, these are so integral to understand, even in our process of cooking.
So, chef, I know about PS4 and PS5, but what is this PDO and PGI? What is it?
I mean, aren't you just like a genius? How you relate to things is amazing. But anyways, your wit is separate. It's a great question, by the way. So PDO really means protected destination of origin, which clearly means that if you look at, let's say, a bottle of olive oil from Greece, right? The olives, the making of the olive oil, the bottling of it, and the packaging of it. And then from there, the entire thing is made in that region of Greece. So that gets a PDO label, which means all the processes are done in that very area. And PGI, on the other hand, is protected geographical indication, which means that, in the entire process of making, bottling, packaging, at least one process must be done in that region. So, for example, an Irish whiskey, which is actually brewed in Ireland from almost the 6th century, a lot of the ingredients that are used in the Irish whiskey do not belong to Ireland itself. They come from all over the place, but the bottling happens in that region. So that is how it gets a PGI label.
I put up a video नीचे से grapes लेके I started making wine and it blew up.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, some people actually are looking for a way to have alcohol.
So now one more aspect that I want to explore with you, Nehal, is that since you have worked in Western kitchens and now you're creating a lot of these Indian recipes, but when we talk about certain ingredients, they actually don't belong to our country, right?
I mean, chef, if we disclose it here, people will be like, huh?
Yeah, but
ऐसा कैसा बोल दिया?
yeah, previously it used to be called as general knowledge, but now it's called Google knowledge. So
But sometimes people just don't want to have the knowledge. I realize that.
fair, right. I'm happy the way I am. But talking about, let's say, potatoes or tomatoes or mirchi, which is chilies, they're not from India.
It's not. And we owe so much to that trade that happened, right? That trade practices that happened between the Western countries and us.
So thinking about that, I think this is a very interesting topic of how we as a country have imbibed from things that have come from the West. So, for example, I know that the Goan sausages, the Goan chorizos, are actually the chorizos which are kind of inspired from the chorizos in Portugal.
And it was it when I actually saw someone make it, and I always wondered, preserving the meat is a technique that is so it's an art to it. There's an art, and there's a thing about using vinegar. I don't think it is that popular when it comes to Goa and everything. They use a lot of vinegar in their cooking, right?
Right.
And that is something we actually took from the Portuguese, understanding how the chorizo. That I think Goan sausage is the only thing that tastes consistent every time you have it,
Right.
whether it's made by, because that learnings that they have gotten from the Portuguese has been consistent. The flavor is the same each time.
Yeah. So, Nehal, I have been speaking about my generation, right? But I'm sure you are the younger generation of life. So, I've spoken about the old thoughts about potatoes, tomatoes, chilies. In this new generation, which are those products that you think that we have taken and made our own?
I mean, I guess there are many, and I think it's getting adapted into our lifestyle really quickly, much faster than what it must have been before. There are things like kale from Germany. You got Spanish saffron, which I use on a regular.
It's become a big thing now. I want to have kale salad. Yeah, you're right.
Kale in my salad was something very new, and but how quickly it became from salad into chips, and then you got like quince from Portugal, which you can make achar with. So it's just
Chutneys, amazing
chutneys and
chutneys from Quince, right?
it has we've understood how to use this in our regular life, Indianize it, because that's something we need, that we cannot take away from ourselves.
And one thing about our country is
Yeah.
that we can take anything and just make it our own.
As a general population, we are very bold, flavorful, robust people, and that's the flavors we like to eat. So doesn't matter. I have no problem with people adding those flavors to food if it works, and genuinely people are taking the effort to actually work with these products to make them more accessible to the Indian audience, which is so vast, and the flavors change from the north to the south, and how it's being used is incredible. But like people keep saying like India is a country of just curries. What do you think about that?
I'm not joking. The emotion that I get arisen with when anybody speaks like this, ki India is all about curries, is I really want to beat you. Because we've not understood our country. The country is not just about curries. We are, like you said, that we are so much different from north, east, west, south. There is a dish for every reason, not even region.
True.
Right? When a child is born, there's a different dish which is made. When so you're getting married, it's a different dish made. When somebody dies, there's a different dish made. So food for us is not just something that we consume to eat.
Yeah.
But even if you look at our balanced diet, the thali that we see, there has to be a salad, there has to be a sukha sabzi, there has to be a gila sabzi, there has to be bread, carbohydrates, protein, everything has to be there.
True.
That is how we say that this is an Indian meal.
Yep.
For me, very honestly, you asked me this question, so I'm just sharing. Sorry, I know I didn't do to be mean, but we don't know. I don't know something called as Indian cuisine.
True.
So we are vast. We are very vast, and one lifetime is not enough.
Not good enough. Truly, I understand that, and I don't think I will finish exploring all of India's cuisines in one lifetime, as you said.
Right.
But we'll try to make it with newer ingredients, explore it with newer ingredients.
But I think the good thing that is happening to our country, and I want to hear your perspective to it. Since you worked in cruise liners, you worked in fine dine restaurants, you worked in variety of spaces. I want to understand from you that our country is changing very rapidly when it comes to dining.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts? What are your things that you see and the trends that you see changing?
The world has gotten into a smaller space. The produce is much more easily available than before, and that's why I think restaurants and hotels are taking advantage of this. Okay, like you've heard of these brilliant restaurants like O Pedro, Mask, wherein they are using produce from European places. Like I think O Pedro is a Portuguese Goan inspired space.
Right.
And when you look at some of the work that is being done over there, we all like to eat nalli. The approach is very European in that sense.
Right.
And, that's a space where chefs have found common ground and say, okay, I can get these European ingredients from Portugal, incorporate them into this cuisine, which we are doing over here, and it will be a brand new flavor for someone to experience.
Right.
And that is something that is game changing in the space.
Right.
And as it starts getting adapted by more and more people, we will have much more from it as we see.
Right, and you're right, because we're opening a restaurant in Goa.
Yeah.
And we are making a pizza out of a poi.
That's great.
And then we're using obviously a French camembert
Okay.
onto a poi.
Wow.
But then topping it up with some Goan sausage.
That's
So camembert has a very mellow flavor, whilst the chorizo is very, very sharp, and the poi is just amazing.
It's perfect thing to hold it.
Right, and you are sitting in Goa.
Yeah.
With some Belgian beers.
Yeah. that's you know what, let's go to Goa. Chalo, podcast khatam hone ka, let's go to Goa.
But the other part of it is that I think our country is also moving towards a lot of fine dine restaurants, just as that you mentioned. What do you think is the reason that the number of restaurants have suddenly grown up? It's mushroomed, and how we are imbibing to this new way of eating. What are your thoughts?
I think our capacity to purchase has changed in the last, you can say, 10 years, right?
Right.
And we are always that audience that says, कुछ नया क्या है? कुछ नया चाहिए.
India बोले और दिखाओ.
हाँ, कुछ नया चाहिए. We need something new each time. And if you crack it, if you give them the right ingredient, the right thing which suits their palate, it takes off, and it can take off like nothing. Like I just saw someone make a stone baked pizza on the road using a the pizza stone oven.
Wow.
And I'm like, it's reached the street, like properly fermented pizza dough.
A sourdough
pizza using the right flour, the right double O flour, and it is being made on the street. So people obviously are trying to find the next thing that will interest us. And that's something that goes not just with pizza, but even with pasta. Like I always felt pasta was taken very easily by us because humko to pasand aa gaya.
You said pizza on the street.
Yep.
I'm talking about pasta, that's macaroni to be
Yeah.
precise, being sold on the streets of UP.
Yeah.
And the guy is actually saying, "अरे भैया 2 plate macaroni लगा देना." So that's what is happening in our country.
But that's fun to like just explore and look at it, right? I think for the longest time, if you look at certain fruits, like even blueberries, they were not. Now the thela wala has it.
Right.
Like, "Yeah, blueberry, like it.
And if you're living in Mumbai and if any vegetables has reached
Yeah.
the station,
Yes.
because that's where the major buying happens for
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
households. If that vegetable or fruit has reached the station, which
Yeah.
means we feel that it has arrived
True.
in India. So, and as you said about avocado, the only thing I think which is missing is some truffle oil being drizzled on the streets.
You never know.
You never know. You never say never.
Like we are unpredictable people. We find ways to serve food in different ways,
Right.
and it will work also according to me. And I think the amount of dishes I see having proper olive oil or proper truffle oil now is it's crazy that we were like, huh, truffle oil dal do.
You're right, because in the last 2 years, if you just see the consumption pattern of any of these ingredients, it's blown up. It's grown, in the multiples of hundreds. Like the truffle oil bottles that arrived in India in 2021 versus 24, the number is huge. So I think that's a sign that India is ready to explore, to understand new flavors, to understand new cuisines. And I think there's so much more to bring into our tables.
I'm gonna say all good things so that I get some prosciutto later on to take home or some quince. I'm being nice, but yeah, it's amazing, chef. Yes, and I think that's great. Like even you've understood, like our desiness is never going to go.
Yeah.
We just have to figure out around these ingredients because obviously because of the 4 pillars and what they stand for.
Yeah.
And and I think that's a big learning as well for us as a country to learn from those 4 pillars and develop.
So, Nehal, we've talked about multiple things. We've talked about, how we perceive food, how we perceive ingredients, how we see the similarity from east to west. I also want to kind of hear your thoughts about what are the other trends or other thoughts that you see today where the Gen Z is looking at and the way we are looking at food per se.
Yeah, I feel the younger audience wants to be much more healthier in what they consume. Like reading labels is a big thing now. Like reading labels behind their packaging and trying to know that what you're consuming has become a top priority. Because obviously we were struggling for it for a while, but certain regulations have come into place which are promoting healthier products to come through, and that for me is incredible. Like understanding your label where we wouldn't think about it that time, kharid lo, put in the fridge, but now everyone's actually paying attention to it.
Right. I mean, a simple example is that from my childhood, whenever we felt thirsty, we will just get a bottle of aerated drink and just consume it. But now with the rise of social media, and somebody actually putting amount of sugar that has gone into one glass of versus one glass of the aerated drink, it just like, boggles you and say, oh, I don't want to have it. So every time you even go close to it, it's like, I don't have it.
Yeah, social media teaches good and bad things as well. I think that awareness has increased and people love to feed themselves knowledge, right? They want to know more.
Yeah.
And, even like I was looking at something the other day where a particular region in Italy, people are from the blue zone, which basically means they age, but not, they're like 95, 96 years old, lekin hatte katte, they walk around their village, they take their dogs to the walk, they work in the farm. And the study was basically that the the consumption or the diet that was there specifically in that region actually promoted this, and it turns out to be olive oil. Like,
Right.
olive
So
oil.
you actually are what you eat.
I'm happy that I can eat everything without any allergies. I'm thankful for that.
Me too.
And I can consume whatever I want.
I think the best thing Europe could give this whole wide world
Yeah.
is cheese.
Dude, cheese is like it's hard. I sometimes try to explain to people who say I love processed cheese. It's not cheese.
It's some cheese.
It's something. And then you cut a slice of a good aged cheddar or a camembert and you give it to them, and they're like, I'll be honest, they still don't like it.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand.
It's a quiet taste. It's an
It's a
understanding.
quiet taste.
Cheese is an understanding.
But eventually, like, me and my wife like moved on from having processed cheese at home to having good quality cheese because it genuinely makes we make a small platter over the weekend to just enjoy ourselves, because we generally believe that that's not harmful for you.
So we're seeing a lot of trends, coming, going, coming, going. But what, in your opinion, are future trends to stay?
So I see a lot of it, and obviously social media hai to trends aate hi rahenge, it will never end. But I see a lot of potential in chocolate and confectionery items.
If you look at patisserie by itself, whether it's from France or from any other region, it requires that heavy cream that actually is amazing, whether it's from Ireland or
Yeah.
whether it's from France. It's got a very different feel to it. So I agree to what you're saying, that if we have to reach to that level of confection,
Yeah.
we got to use those ingredients to
Yes.
make it nice.
Fat is flavor, right? So
That is flavor.
if you don't get it right in the dairy and at that like with one little product like dairy, there is so many things that are made.
And also, you just touched upon a beautiful aspect of making it in India whilst
Yeah.
you're importing the raw material from probably outside. I think where it becomes different is because when we're talking about a PDO or a PGI
Yeah.
product, even what feed goes to the animal
Yeah.
who's
Yeah.
going to be weaned for that milk is also looked at. So that's a very important part, because sometimes we may just leave it as something we are not bothered about. But what is going inside the animal is also very important.
True. And that, at least you're eating or consuming the right things going ahead,
Right.
without having no knowledge about it.
Right. So I think this has been such an exceptional conversation, so much of fun, and understanding you as a person, as a chef. But more than that, your views and your understanding of how the world is going, how we are accepting flavors. It's been such an amazing conversation, Nehal,
Yeah.
and truly enriching. So thank you so much for being here on this podcast, and I've had so much fun. I hope you had.
Thank you so much. Somehow you managed to get me out of my studio and get me on this chair.
Otherwise, you just look outside the
It's
window.
a task. It's
Yeah.
a task that people don't know. Like someone told me, like, where do I have to go? No way I'm getting out of that. But thank you so much for this opportunity. It's great fun, and it's always great fun talking to you.